Coming up on Tech News Today from CES 2012, Intel finally breaks into phones. OnLive's coming to Google TV, sort of, and headphones that won't fall out of your ears. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, January 11th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog for a free trial and 30% off your new account for 3 months. Go to Squarespace.com and use offer code TNT1. And by Ford, featuring all electric and hybrid electric technologies. Learn more about the technologies Ford is bringing to its vehicles at Ford.com/technology. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lee.
Jason Howell's over there behind the board, and Simon Dingle is joining us today. You will find his technology reporting in magazines on newsstands all over South Africa.
That's right. Hi, Tom.
And you'll also find him at simondingle.com. Thanks for joining us, man. It's
of
always
course.
good to come to CES and see you in 3 dimensions instead of on Skype.
It's quite something
Is it
to
different?
get off the screen.
Is it different to do the show at 2:30 in the afternoon?
I'll tell you in about 5 minutes.
All right.
Once I've done the show at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Excellent. We'll
But
start.
it's great to be here.
Good. Great to have you. Let's start with Intel making an announcement that they have finally gotten some smartphones to take the Medfield Atom chip. Lenovo and Motorola committed to releasing phones and tablets based on Intel's mobile chips in 2012. Now, don't forget, LG said last year that they were going to do this, and they never did. So we'll wait and see if it really happens. However, Lenovo actually does have a phone here running the chip, so that's a good sign. Mike Bell, co-general manager of Intel's revamped smartphone project, said on stage that the company added some features to the reference designs showcased using Atom chips in order to ensure that Android applications written for ARM chipsets would run on Atom. So when they put Android on these Atom-based processors, you should be able to take all of the Android Marketplace apps and run them.
Should.
Yeah, it's a big underline on that should. Probably some of them are going to have to be emulation.
Right. And what does this mean for developers, though? I mean, are developers going to have to start thinking about tweaking their applications for the new platform? Do they just need to not worry about it and let kind of the manufacturers take care of it, or how's it going to impact them? That's what I'm wondering.
Theoretically, this isn't supposed to be an issue for the developers because Android was done up for Intel's x86 processors. So what's going to be in theory, what's going to be in practice, I'm assuming you're going to see optimized for Atom process or Medfield or optimized for ARM, because you're probably going to see that little schism. Maybe it'll be just a detection on the app market, hopefully, but I'm thinking theoretically it's supposed to be okay, but practically there's always some weird hurdle.
Most of the developers, in my opinion, will probably ignore this, saying, well, it'll run how it runs, unless one of these phones really takes off and becomes popular. Lenovo's product, the K800, is set to hit the market in China during the second quarter. That's the one we've actually seen at Showstoppers yesterday, actually.
Although there's no word on when it'll be available in the U.S.
Right. 1.6 gigahertz Medfield processor, Android 2.3, TFT display, 8-megapixel camera, ISO 3200. Did you actually get to see it yesterday?
At Showstoppers?
Yeah.
Well, it was at the Lenovo booth, but we didn't actually hold the phone.
Didn't get a chance
We were busy with the yoga.
Yeah.
We were back on the yoga train.
Everybody loves the yoga.
Yeah.
Motorola also going to ship, they said later this year, some reports said second half of 2012, a phone that they had no other details about. They were much more vague about this idea.
The other thing they're all being vague on is battery life, right? So we know that it's the battery life on these new Intel chips is not great. You kind of sacrifice that for more power, but we don't know exactly how bad they are, right? I mean, Lenovo's not talking about that.
And it's the only one that's actually running, so it's the only one you'd be able to tell something about.
We were joking before on this week in computer hardware that maybe Motorola is the right company for an Intel chip because they could have like retro phones,
right?
Those monstrous ones, so they could actually have a battery big enough to handle an Intel processor.
Yeah.
Intel also showed off a tablet reference design running Windows 8 on the Atom processor. Of course, all the buzz has been about running Windows 8 on ARM processors, and we've seen a few demonstrations of that as well. So I had almost forgotten. Right? Oh, Windows can run on x86. That's not a big deal. They should be showing that off, but all they had was a reference design. Not much more to say there. Intel did say that they will have a lot more announcements around mobile devices on the Medfield processor coming at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Are you going to head out to that, Simon?
Yeah, probably. I'm there every year, so we're looking forward to seeing some more sort of definition, some more clarity on what these devices look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Motorola's Sanjay Jha also talking to reporters in a roundtable meeting about their strategy for cell phones. He said, quote, a lot of products that are roughly the same doesn't drive the market to a new place. And he described their new strategy is to do fewer models of Motorola phones and not put them out as often.
Yeah, apparently they're going to use their money for marketing purposes, right? So they have like, that doesn't mean they're killing any phones, right? Because there's already so many variants of the Droid. There's the Droid Bionic, the Razr Max, the whatever. There's tons of these things. So I mean, for them to like decide to advertise a lot more, I mean, is that really going to help them, or is that to focus on what their actual phones are?
It probably does help them as well with the kind of ecosystem they're trying to develop with these laptop docks and multimedia docks. And I guess having more phone devices makes it difficult to kind of come up with a standard set of accessories that'll work across all of them. So they're talking about a new laptop dock now that'll work with the Atrix and with the Razr. And I guess it just becomes easier the less phones they've got to kind of drive this whole ecosystem idea of your phone docking with all sorts of things in your bag.
It seems to me to be ripping a page out of the Apple playbook and saying,
don't forget the RIM London, Tom.
Oh, right.
I keep reminding everybody that RIM is also trying this tactic. Which, I mean, you watered down the consumer experience. If you walk into a carrier store and there are a bunch of Android phones that all seem pretty similar, and maybe the representative is not even sure how they're really different.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make anything stand out and look cool when you have too many of the almost exact same model.
So, and that plays into the other point Sanjay Jha said, which is that they don't make money selling stock Android phones for a similar reason. If they put out an Android phone that's stock, how do they differentiate it from all the other Android phones? He said Verizon and AT&T don't want 7 stock ice cream sandwich devices on their shelves. The vast majority of the changes we make to the OS are to meet the requirements that carriers have. That all makes logical sense, but as a consumer sitting there saying, look, stop messing with my phone, stop giving me a tweaked UI, I want ice cream sandwich. How do you answer that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big challenge with Android, right? The only differentiation they've really managed to come up with so far are like TouchWiz and HTC Sense and these interfaces that they build on top of it, which frankly, in my experience, I just don't want. I've been playing with the new Samsung Galaxy Nexus, which is a raw ice cream sandwich experience, and it's awesome. You know, that's all I want. But from a manufacturer perspective, how do you differentiate? How do you carve out something that makes you different from all of the other Android phones on the shelf? It's a tough one.
I mean, we've seen the TV manufacturers try this with Android or Google TV. They skinned it to the point where you don't even recognize it, or what Amazon did with the Kindle Fire. I mean, I guess you could just use it as an underlying layer for your applications and things and just skin it so much to the point where, you can make it look like, my friends have done this, make it look like a Windows Phone device, or looks like a Migo device if you want it that way. So you can really customize it to the point where it looks a little different, even if they're just round icons or something. You can make it, I'm just very curious about what kind of impact the Google acquisition is going to do to this. This kind of sounds like a Larry Page kind of move of slim this down. We do have too much stuff. So maybe he's already pleasing his future boss. But if they want to differentiate themselves from Google's stock Android product, that's even weirder. That also sounds like a positive comment. Our Android device will not be a stock Google experience. So of course, Google will continue to save the rest of the manufacturers.
Right, and this is why no one is able to make any money selling laptops, because they all run stock Windows, and they can't differentiate them, and so no one can sell. No one can sell. I don't buy this argument from Sanjay Jha. Everyone could run stock ice cream sandwich. People would love it. Listen to your customers. They want stock ice cream sandwich. Differentiate yourself on the quality of your hardware. Differentiate yourself on your support, on your customer support, which is atrocious for most hardware manufacturers. Don't give me this crap about I have to throw bloatware on there. I have to muck with the UI because the carriers want it. I don't care what the carriers want.
Well, yeah, to please the carriers. These are their bosses at the end of the day, it seems like,
I
not the
know.
customers. That's unfortunate.
They hold the
That's
purse
exactly the
strings.
point, I think.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. If you are got an axe to grind, you got something you got to say, maybe you just want to start reviewing gadgets, go out there and start a blog right now. Or if you already have a blog and you're like, my blog just doesn't look as good as I would like, try Squarespace.com. You can import from all the major blog services and export as well. They don't lock you in. And you don't need a credit card to try it. So go do it. Sign up. Import your blog. Start writing your stuff. Take advantage of all the different templates. They have a bunch of new templates in there that are absolutely gorgeous. Make a good-looking website. And then realize that when those hordes start coming to your website and eating up all the bandwidth, you've got reliable service from Squarespace behind it. You don't have to worry. Try it out for free. You don't have to take my word for it. See if you like it. If you do decide to keep it, use the offer code TNT1 and get 30% off for 3 months of the service from Squarespace.com. We thank them for their support of our CES coverage of Tech News Today. Now, we mentioned briefly when we were talking about the Lenovo phone earlier, the Showstoppers press event, last of the 3 big evening press events. Simon and Sarah, you guys were both there. Sarah, start with you. What were some of the things that jumped out at you? I mean, we've had 2 evenings of press events. How much more was there left to see?
Well, so Tom and I covered digital experience, which we talked a little bit about yesterday as a wrap-up on TNT. And last night, Dick DiBartolo and I covered Showstoppers for the weekly Daily Gizwiz. And the 2 shows, there's definitely some crossover. For example, I said that we saw the yoga again. Lenovo had a booth. HP had a booth. Pandora had a booth. Roku had a booth. Some of these companies just have a presence at almost all the trade shows. But Showstoppers is a little bit less, I guess you could say hardware geeky and a little bit more fun. So, for example, there are these YUR headphones, which don't sound like much, but they're designed to stay in your ears even if you're doing parkour, like this parkour expert was doing on the show last night.
He's yanking on him.
Yeah, he's yanking on him. And this actually, it seems pretty simple, but they're called earbuds. Seems pretty simple, but I actually have weird ears, and so one of my biggest pet peeves is in-ear earphones. Just don't work for me, especially if I'm running.
Those iPhone headphones fall out of
my ear all the time.
They're terrible.
But even then you've got the over-the-ear ones, and those kind of suck too. So I actually tried them on. We dangled a phone from my ears and swung back and forth, and they stayed in. The audio quality it's pretty good, but I really did like the idea that they could stay in. So stuff like that, where you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. There was a 4x4 off-roader Jeep. It was like $16,000 fully loaded. I think $12,000 if you don't want power steering. But it's like it had an iPad dock. It had these LED inputs. iPod dock.
It's not that bad of a price, really.
I know, up above your head from the main console. This thing was, it's like a silly toy. I sat in it. We even turned it on, and then the guy quickly turned it off before I drove into some nice people that were having some wine and cheese.
It's the ultimate golf cart.
Yeah, the EFI 9000. No, this was awesome. So things like this. So you didn't get a digital experience. We just jumping in off-roader, why not? And then finally, actually, what I was most excited about was at Boxy's booth, because they've got the new Boxy live TV situation where they've paired a OTA antenna with the Boxy dongle that plugs into your Boxy box, so then you get live television over the air. Then it goes through your Boxy software system.
Oh, so trying to make Boxy into an all-in-one service.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
you can get all of those free over-the-air channels.
Right.
And all of the apps that they have on Boxy as well.
Plus
Exactly.
it gives you channel schedules, and it shows you what your friends are watching on free-to-air television and that kind of thing. And I'm guessing it'll work in other countries too, if you manage to get hold of these things in Europe or South America or anywhere with a sort of a free-to-air television system with a coax antenna should work, right?
Yeah, one would think. It's the same. It's just an antenna.
Yeah.
And a tuner, presumably. So that should work as long as it's compatible signal being broadcast. Which I think worldwide we are now broadcasting on the same frequency.
DTT and all of that. Yeah. I also went to the Blue microphone stand. They updating the Mikey for iPhone.
Uh-huh.
So better microphone, and the input now has 3 levels, so you could record from other devices. and that looked pretty cool. And then the Spark microphone now has a 32-pin adapter for iPad and iPhone, so you could use that for GarageBand on iPad, which I thought was pretty neat.
Cool.
Get a really good microphone plugged into it. So
yeah, I think I
pretty
actually
cool.
prefer using GarageBand on the iPad well over using it on the laptop.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't played with it enough, but
It's just simple.
it is cool. Yeah.
Maybe I'm just simple. Maybe maybe that's the reason. All right, onward into more CES announcements. OnLive announced today that it will stream its include its viewing service stock on Google TV. So when you install Google TV or when you buy a Google TV device, it will come with the OnLive player. Steve Perlman, CEO of OnLive, said, "Hang in there, though. OnLive is working closely with Google to enable full gameplay with OnLive gamers from around the world on Google TV." But still pretty cool that the player comes with Google TV.
Yeah, the viewer's like the first step. I mean, that's somewhat exciting. You want some content on your Google TV. You try to make sure that you don't get blocked out, because Google TV gets blocked out a lot from major sites. But having this gaming content, it can be a nice little hook. But I'm just already clearly looking into the future of this one. Like, I can't wait until that device can be a game console. That just seems like that's where they should be going anyway. Because if you can offload all the processing, you can offload everything, you're not worried about the product cycles. When is the PS4 coming out? When is this coming out? When is this coming out? It doesn't matter. That box, your Google TV box, can be your game console in the future. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I just like the idea of everything becoming the TV, right? Like, eventually you could imagine a Samsung TV with Google TV built in. You've got your console gaming sorted out. You've got all your DVR stuff. It's just the TV.
Yeah.
And nothing connected to it, just connectivity, right?
Yeah, and if you get a TV, Samsung has got upgradable firmware. If you get a Samsung TV with Google TV on it someday, then you can just continue to use Google TV as it gets over-the-air updates. You don't have to have anything attached to it. You could play games from OnLive. You could watch movies. It sounds like the thing that I want. I know it doesn't quite work because it doesn't have all of the internet streaming stuff that it should have, because the Chrome web browser is blocked by the major networks.
Right.
OnLive is just a player right now. They say they're going to have playability, but they don't have it yet. So it's still short of what we want. Vizio announced 2 Google TV products here today, too. It goes along with this. They will have the OnLive player built into them. The VAP 430 set-top box is kind of their take on a Roku, and that will be coming in the spring for $99. And then the VBR 430 Blu-ray player, also with Google TV and OnLive, doesn't have pricing yet, but they said that will be released in the summer. A couple of things we are not seeing are new information about game consoles. And in fact, Sony's Kaz Hirai told the Wall Street Journal, you're not going to see anything about the PlayStation 4 either here or at E3 in May. The quote from Hirai says, "Andy is absolutely right," he's referring to Andy House, "in that we are not making any announcements at E3. I've always said a 10-year life cycle for PS3, and there is no reason to go away from that."
So when does that take us to? 2014? When was the PS3? It's like 2004, right? 2005.
2014 or 2015.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna be playing with the PlayStation 3
for a long time to
for a while. It sounds like.
And I guess Xbox would be more or less the same time frame, if we
Xbox
guess
was
at
a
what
year
Microsoft's
earlier,
thinking.
I
Xbox
guess.
was a year earlier.
But it sounds Microsoft's not saying anything about E3 one way or the other. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them tease something anyway.
Right.
No?
Although if they don't have anything in the works, if we're not going to see a PlayStation 4, and Kaz Hirai wants to make sure that nobody expects it, so that
Nobody's waiting to buy.
So that they're then disappointed for no reason. If Microsoft is in the same boat, then they should make the same kind of announcement. Because otherwise, people will work themselves up into a frenzy, and it'll be like the iPhone 4S situation, where then you're disappointed for no reason because you expected something that was never going to happen.
I try to do that. You parse the statement. It says it won't be making any announcements. I'm like, well, maybe there'll be a demo. There'll be some future thing. Like when they didn't say the PSP 2 was coming out, they're like, oh, here's the NGP. Like, we're not actually going to talk about we'll talk about the next PlayStation. I'm just hoping that the future president of Sony here was just really being very technical. Because if they don't show something cool...
This is what they don't want you to do. You're doing
bad.
exactly what he's trying to squelch.
He said, we're not making any announcements.
They can just have something
This
there.
is Iyaz, so maybe it'll just be a really cool demo.
Yeah,
PlayStation
not an
4.
announcement.
No, the thing is, I mean, look, at E3, it's all going to be about the Vita for them, right? I mean, it's launching in the United States
Yeah,
on February
right,
22nd. E3 is here, I think, in June. They're going to be pushing that thing like crazy, and that's what they want to focus on, is on the PSP Vita, because they want that thing to continue. But I can hope, can't I?
You can.
They were also showing. Oh, go ahead, Simon.
No, I was just going to say the PS3 still got a lot of flex in it, though, from a hardware perspective, right? The
That's true.
Xbox is looking pretty old now.
Oh, yeah.
They're really having to push it to get sort of graphics that are on par with the best on the market.
They're
at the
leaning
moment.
on the Kinect to make
Yeah.
it seem fresh. They're
Yeah,
really
which
hard.
I mean is a great product, but the PS3 still got a lot of flex in it from what I
Good
can
point.
tell.
The Nintendo Wii U is known to be the next Nintendo game console. They've been showing that up off in a suite here in Las Vegas, and we went up, took a look at it, said, all right, let's see what they have to say. My first time actually getting to use it, so that was kind of cool to try that new big touchscreen controller that they have in addition to the Wiimote and the nunchuck. But I have to say, nothing new was said. Everything that they were showing off is things that they showed off at E3. They were very careful to say, we're not showing off games, we're showing off experiences. So that game you see me playing in the video version of Tech News Today, that's just an experience. It was sort of a hide-and-seek game, kind of fun because one person is hidden and he sees himself on the controller, right, on the touch-sensitive controller. Everybody else is just seeing the regular television version. They don't know where you are. I get it. I got it at E3 from the explanation. Sure, it was fun to play it, but really nothing else answer. They wouldn't answer any questions about like, oh, you're going to have more announcements at E3 even. They wouldn't answer my questions about that either.
I just love the notion of bringing you into a room, telling you they won't answer any questions, and then playing hide and seek with you.
Kind of a metaphor.
Yeah. No, Tom, we will not say anything, but let's play hide and seek.
They did show off some footage. It wasn't playable footage of Zelda concept in HD. And I, as I said in our video, Zelda never looked better. Zelda looked fantastic. It wasn't the best HD gaming footage I've ever seen. There was a little bit of artifacting. So this thing is still a prototype. They've got a little ways to go.
Zelda's the magic word for Nintendo, right? Whenever they say that, people just get excited.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
Zelda's coming to the 3DS. What? Seriously? I need one now. Give me 5.
It works on me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll get some details on when the Wii U is going to come out at E3, but they wouldn't confirm that either. Finally, you might know, or you might not, Microsoft not coming back to CES next year. Steve Ballmer gave his last keynote. Gary Shapiro, the head of the CEA, said they're on pause. It's like saying we're on break. We're not dating anymore. But they gave away Microsoft's floor space. Seat selection for the 2013 CES happened yesterday, or it's happening actually for 3 days. And CNET reports that within 45 minutes, all of Microsoft's booth space was sold to Dish and Chinese electronics maker Hisense, and they got the exact same price that Microsoft would have paid.
Wow.
In combination from the two.
We all made predictions of who we thought would take the space, and neither of these were mine. I predicted Samsung. I thought that would have been a good.
Yeah, because they need more space. Did you see that booth of theirs?
I know,
like,
it's
like
monstrous.
It's like
yeah.
a football
I
stadium.
thought they'd like the placement better.
Yeah,
moving up forward
definitely.
would have made sense.
Yeah. Do you think this is a trend that's starting with Microsoft pulling out? Do you think we're going to see more sort of big vendors pulling out next year, maybe?
I don't. And the reason I don't, I wasn't sure about that till I got here. The reason I don't feel that way is Microsoft isn't about selling products. They're about being in products, right?
Yeah.
They're a software company.
Right.
Apple, you guys talked about this on Mac Break Wiki. Greg Jaws, the marketing director of Apple, was here
iOS
at CES.
He was spotted by somebody from Paid Content,
Yeah.
actually, checking out Sony's booth, and he had a badge on, but it was kind of obscured under a jacket, as you know, sounds like an Apple executive.
Yeah.
But was approached, and I mean, he wasn't. He wasn't here in secret.
Yeah,
but
Tom Crescent from Paid Content went up and said,
what do
Jaws?
you think? He said something like, he was kind of keeping a low profile, didn't have much to say about the Sony booth, but said it's important for us to see how other people display their wares.
Yeah,
so
and
of course they're going to be here.
He's the marketing director.
Yeah.
So I think Microsoft will be somewhere between Apple and Google in the future. Google's not here either. Google doesn't have a booth.
Sure.
They don't need a booth. They're in everything.
Right.
And there's lots of. Eric Schmidt was here yesterday in the CNET Super Session, and so I think Microsoft will be here in a huge way.
Yeah.
And I think for most companies, they still want to sell products to retail. This is still the place to take the orders. yeah, maybe CES is facing a slow fade because of the internet, because it's so much easier to just put your message out directly to people. You don't need to get the press to come here, but it's still a good place to actually show off your wares and take orders for the coming years. So I could see CES maybe slowly shrinking a little bit, possibly. But I don't think it's a death knell. I don't think a bunch of people are going to bail next year. We'll
Becoming
see.
more trade. Maybe Walt Mossberg said that he didn't feel like CES was the place for new stuff anymore.
Yeah.
You know, that vendors would have their own events to launch the really new stuff. And that this is becoming more of a transactional or networking environment, I guess.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think it is a trade show, and I think the trade starts to become more important, and it becomes less of a press event.
What, we're going to talk business now?
Yeah, I know. How sad.
Why would you do that?
How very, very sad. All right, let's move on to the news fuse. According to Reuters, Dell will give the tablet world another go. Dell's failed tablets include the Dell Streak and the Inspiron Duo, but that's not holding them back. Dell CFO Steve Felice told CNET that Dell will be very careful in entering the tablet market again. He didn't specify which OS the tablets would have, but did name Windows 8 and Android as possibilities. So best of luck, Dell. Third time's a charm.
Google's personal search is a day old. It's already annoying a lot of organizations, such as the Electronic Privacy Information Center, or EPIC, which asked the FTC to investigate Google's move to see if it causes privacy or even antitrust issues. EPIC previously complained to the FTC over Google buzz regarding privacy concerns, which led to a Google FTC settlement, which makes Google have to be audited for the next 20 years.
We might be at CES, but you can't escape patent wars. Follows us everywhere. Kodak is suing Apple and HTC, claiming infringement of 4 imaging patents related to transmitting pictures. Now, Kodak is currently trying to avoid filing for bankruptcy, but so if Kodak wins, their patent portfolio will look pretty strong, right? But of course, lawsuits take time, so this might not be quick enough to save Kodak.
At the CES Innovation Policy Summit, a panel including congressional staffers and Hollywood folks spoke about SOPA and Protect IP. Ryan Clow, Legislative Counsel for Representative Zoe Lofgren, warned that even though there is opposition to those acts, they are far from dead, meaning the acts. On the pro-SOPA side, Executive Director of the Copyright Alliance, Sandra Esters, who said the tech community hasn't offered proper alternatives to the proposed law and that the intentions of these acts are being misstated. So the fight is going to wage on if CES is any indication.
According to Reuters, Microsoft's plans to introduce an online video subscription service have ground to a halt. Apparently, Microsoft has been in intense talks with media companies to bring content to its service. They demoed Microsoft TV to the program partners, but it was Microsoft that bristled at the cost of such a service. The company will continue to bring programming via the Xbox platform.
Ultraviolet has regained Amazon's blessing. Now, Ultraviolet is that buy once cloud version of your movie. An Amazon executive VP of digital, Bill Carr, announced Amazon will offer UV movies from one of the major studios, but he didn't exactly mention which one. Also on the ultraviolet front, Samsung announced that its 2012 Blu-ray players will be UV compatible.
Device Fidelity and Spring Card Systems introduced a new NFC-capable micro SD card. That means if you got an older phone that didn't include NFC, you can just pop in the Moneto card and add that functionality. Get it? Moneto NFC payment. Yeah, I get it. The card will cost $30 and be available in just a few weeks.
Apple has confirmed a purchase of Israeli semiconductor startup Nanobit Technologies. The price is believed to be between $400 and $500 million. Nanobit is a fabless semiconductor company based in Israel, which makes a key component that improves the performance of NAND flash memory chips, which are used in iPhones, iPads, and iPods. Apple will also gain 160 chip engineers from the deal. That's according to TechCrunch.
The Wikipad does exist, and Gadget's Matt Smith found it on the show floor, but not in a shipping shape yet. Wikipad is an 8-inch touchscreen gaming device with dual analog controls and glasses-free 3D display. Smith reports the tablet is quite svelte with a soft touch. Did you just prank me with this? With a soft touch backing, running Ice Cream Sandwich. While Avatar apparently looked great, none of these games were running or able to be controlled by the controllers.
No, that was a quote from Smith. He used the word svelte.
This tablet sure is felt.
Yeah. And finally, Sony just announced it will offer its Music Unlimited streaming service on iOS sometime this quarter as a free app. There will be a version for the iPhone and the iPad. On now to the Randomizer.
Randomizer.
Touchscreens, you knew they were dangerous. You were just waiting for someone to tell you. And the InfoWorld has the details for you. Research has been done on the perils of the ergonomic problems of tablets. Apparently, it's people holding them wrong. You're holding it wrong, except you really are holding it wrong this time. Tablets are meant to be really horizontal. That's the best way to use them because it keeps your wrists straight. But a lot of people prop them up, put them on their knees, prop them up against something, and then they're bending their wrists to touch the screen, and that's exactly the wrong thing to do ergonomically. It's going to cause wrist injuries, according to this InfoWorld article.
Well, I can see if you were obsessively playing a game where it was a repetitive motion at a funny angle because you were using, I don't know, some sort of a stand or, your smart cover. That's actually happened to me before, where it's like, this hurts. I gotta move around. But as far as even typing for long periods of time, I don't really do a lot of that on a tablet. I mean, I'm zooming and pinching, and I'm sort of all over the place.
I just find tablets sort of awkward to handle in just about any environment, except if I've got it propped up with a keyboard, in which case I may as well be sitting at my laptop, right? When I lie in bed, I fall asleep and drop it on my face. When I'm on the couch, it's kind of a little heavy and cumbersome to hold in front of me. Mm-hmm. When I'm flat on a table, I'm like crouched over like the Hunchback of Johannesburg, and I just I can't. They just awkward, right?
Well, I mean, there's every new product gives you that potential for RSI. I mean, I remember seeing all the ergonomic posture stuff you're supposed to do with the computer anyway. Do you remember all the weird ergonomic keyboards that came out for was a craze in the 90s? They were really large and they were split and curved and everything like that. I mean, it's just an opportunity to come up with either an ergonomic stand or you just have to take tell people this could happen and then they understand. Like
that beanbag thing with the Velcro. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
One of the stands here has got, you kind of stick that to your iPad and then...
I mean, this reminds me of BlackBerry Thumb. Remember that that problem people would have because they would keep doing that repetitive stress?
No, it's a really good example of that. Franklin Tesler, MD, wrote up the article in InfoWorld. It's 4 pages long if you really want to get into it. Avoiding injuries from typing and tapping, though, the position of your wrist, is what he said, affects the likelihood of injury from performing multi-touch gestures on touchscreens. So it's not just typing, it's also, the swiping and everything if you're constantly bending that wrist while you do it. And he says, according to Alan Hedge, director of the Human Factors and Ergonomics Lab at Cornell University, the more you dorsiflex your wrist, that means flex it towards the dorsal side.
I had a hunch it was that, but I wasn't sure.
The greater the chance of injury. He adds most gestures don't require too much force, so you're usually safe as long as you don't bend your wrists excessively or repeat gestures too rapidly. So gameplay is where that could be an issue, actually.
So is it carpal tunnel syndrome? Is that the injury he's talking about? Or?
It could be, or repetitive stress injury, which is known as RSI, which is, I have had problems with that in the past, and it is no joke. I mean, it is completely debilitating. So it's something for people to take seriously.
Yeah. Exactly. You'll know if somebody's had RSI or not by how seriously they take this threat. People who haven't had it go, it's probably not that big a deal. It's not going to really hurt me. Anybody who's had RSI is like, you're right. I'm going to pay attention to everything this person says because that is a horrible thing to have. Let's take a quick break and thank our other sponsor, Ford. They're here at CES and introducing some new technologies, all electric and hybrid electric technologies. 2 new vehicles Ford is bringing to electric technologies are the 2012 Ford Focus Electric. You've heard us talk about that before. And a new one, the 2013 C-Max Energy Plug-in Hybrid. Now, both these models take advantage of regenerative braking. In fact, they say 90% of the kinetic energy lost in conventional engines due to heat and friction is captured back by their electric systems. Includes unique sync with My Ford Touch EV features to help you maximize your range so you can see how much is being recovered. A lot of driver information systems. They've got great tech in the cabins on Ford, onboard and offboard. Manage the recharge process, determine the most eco-friendly driving route, remotely control your vehicle charge from your phone while you're sitting in the office and you're like, oh, you know what, I need it a little faster. I need to charge it up a little faster. I want to see how well it's doing. Monitor that battery state of charge, maximize energy efficiency. And a unique execution of Sync with My Ford Touch lets you optimize for electrified driving and configuring vehicle information such as fuel level, battery power level, and average and instant miles per gallon. Just a lot of great features in the new Ford electric vehicles. And in the 2012 Ford Focus Electric, particularly, which is the one that's coming out soon, an all-electric vehicle without a gasoline engine. Fully charges in 3 to 4 hours through a 240-volt home charging station, 100% electric, zero CO2 emissions, lithium-ion battery, and new battery technology enables topping off a charge without hurting the battery and reducing its life. So learn more about it. The 2012 Ford Focus Electric, available for reservations right now, and the 2013 Ford C-Max Energy plug-in hybrid coming in the fall of 2013. You can learn more about both those cards and all of the electric technologies from Ford at ford.com/technology. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. On to the calendar.
Naysayers and critics be damned. ICANN is pushing ahead with launch of new top-level domains at midnight tomorrow, January 12th, which is actually like midnight tonight. Reddit is going offline. What, you say? What? On January 18th, Reddit is going to self-impose a blackout to oppose SOPA for 12 hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Apple has started sending out press invites confirming that indeed on January 19th they're having an education event. It'll be held at the Guggenheim Museum in New York City, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. The HDMI forum they launched back in October of 2011 says it's working on a new standard for later this year that will likely increase bandwidth for higher resolution and introduce some yet undetailed other features. And finally, Razer Blade gaming laptop. Remember, you heard about this at last year's CES. It was called the Switchblade at the time, but then it never went anywhere. Is now apparently supposed to ship as the Razer Blade at the end of this month.
Let's check what's incoming.
Incoming message.
We got a couple of emails here we want to take a look at. First, Jake in Virginia says, I thought I'd let you guys know the reason there is a separate Kinect for Windows is that the original Kinect is designed to be used from 6 feet away, whereas the new one has different optics and such to allow it to be used from a much closer distance. That makes some sense. I would still prefer to only use one Kinect, and I would like to use the Kinect I already own on my Windows device. But I can see where, okay, there's not a focus built in to the Kinect, so you might need different optics.
It was a very popular add-on for the Kinect, I think from Nyko, that actually shortened that field so you could be 3 feet away because people were complaining about their apartments. That thing sold out like crazy because people didn't want to be 6 feet away from the television.
It's one of the first things you need to kind of get used to with the Kinect is not being too close to the television, as opposed to the Wii mode that doesn't like being far away from the television, that likes you being close. It's like...
I don't see why they couldn't sell an adapter for the Kinect that allows it to be used with Windows close up.
Right.
Well, they also claim that with the shorter USB cable, it's supposed to help with, I don't know what. But
it is a pretty big device for the Xbox because it needs to be. And I suppose the one that comes out for Windows eventually will be very small.
Hopefully.
And clip on.
Next email from Jack. Hey, TNT crew, love the show, but every time I hear Tom or Sarah pushing geofencing over NFC for payments, I want to reach through my computer and scream, no! Geofencing just seems like such a bad idea. It may be convenient, but I can think of so many ways it could be abused. Walking to a coffee shop, for example, giving the barista your credit card to hold until you leave. They can charge anything they want to your card while you're there. Unless you watch your bill very closely, you're unlikely to notice an extra coffee here or there. Also, GPS is spoofable. I can picture somebody driving down the street in a van, pushing out a bogus GPS signal. Your phone thinks it's inside a shop. They proceed to clean out your account. Personally, I'd never trust something that doesn't require my input to authorize a payment.
Now, it does require your authorization for a payment. That's and maybe we've done a poor job of explaining this,
right.
But the way it works is it senses you and says, hey, would you like to open your tab with this business? You can choose to set it to automatically open that tab whenever you're nearby, but if you're paranoid like Jack, you probably wouldn't do that, and then you would have to take the phone out of your pocket to authorize it. You also get an instant notification anytime they charge you, so that you can then dispute it right away. If you're like, wait a minute, I didn't buy that coffee yet. You can decline it. You can go up and dispute it. It does put the power in your hands. So maybe we didn't explain it properly.
I think there's more of a chance of a barista. Say you're waiting for a coffee and then the transaction has gone through, and then all of a sudden you show up again because you're still in the shop, or you just sort of decided to hang out for a while. Getting confused, user error, not because somebody's trying to spoof your GPS location.
Right. And you know what? You got to look at your receipt these days with a credit card anyway. So if you're not paying attention to your receipt, you're just as likely to have an overcharge or a mistaken charge as you would with this.
Right. So with geofencing, I don't know too much about it, but one of the challenges from what I understand is accurately locating you, right? Because GPS data at the moment is like touch and go. So it would probably still require your input to go, yeah, I am at this place, you know? I mean, when you check in on Foursquare, you usually have to go through a list of places and things you might be at, you know? And
the way Square does it with Cardcase, it gives you the option to say, when you're nearby, we'll alert you that you're here, and you can decide what behavior we do after that.
Yeah,
it's
open a tab
all in your control.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to money, people get really antsy. I mean, this reminds me of when people started buying things online. Like, well, this web page could be spoofed. This could happen. That could happen. And these are real concerns. I mean, you could lose real money on this.
Sure.
And this is stuff that needs to be addressed in general, like when they do the marketing. This is safe. And this is why, like, remember that it was a VeriSign? You would see a lot of sites that would say, we're secure. So I can imagine
still do.
Another company going, we're secure, NFC, and then we'll see that too.
Jack's absolutely right to be cautious.
Oh yeah,
and to warn people like geofencing is not the be all end all. But all of these same problems are problems for any kind of payment system.
Right.
You have to pay attention and make sure you're only getting charged what you should be getting.
If you think your barista is overcharging you a coffee here and there, you need a new coffee shop.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not the fault of geofencing.
And they'll manage to do that with cards, right? You need to pay attention to your bill with no matter what you're paying with.
Yeah,
there was a Visa announcement this week. I haven't read the release, but they've approved mobile for payment. I'm not sure if you guys know more about that, but I just remembered this press release coming in and it being one of the things in my jet lag state I didn't pay much attention to.
Yeah, there have been a lot. That's been not a big trend at CES, but there have been a few payment standard announcements like that. I think Intuit also announced that they're going to be doing a geofencing situation up in Canada. So they're going to try to compete with Square up there and do a payment system. That's another one of those systems that everybody's trying to crack and be the people that figure it out and make mobile payments really easy.
NFC's just not adding up for me.
Nah, me either.
It's, everybody's got card machines already. You think about how pervasive that card infrastructure is. To go and have to replace all of those terminals, it's just, it's not adding up.
Yeah, I don't want to have to bump my phone against something to pay. All right, that's it for this edition of Tech News Today from CES 2012. Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening, and thanks, everybody, on our Reddit. TechNewsToday.reddit.com is our subreddit where you can go and let us know what stories you would like us to cover. It's been invaluable this week at CES with the avalanche of coverage and helping us look and say, okay, they're definitely interested in those stories, and I'm not seeing any of these other stories on there because there's only so much time in every show to get it across to you. Simon Dingle, thanks so much. Great to see you.
It's awesome to hang out in person.
And let folks know what you're doing, where they can find it, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I've got the ZA Tech Show podcast. That's been going for a while. Technology editor at Finweek Magazine in South Africa, and I've got my radio show on 5FM. But it's all on my website, simondingle.com, or just simon.co.za. So, it's been great hanging out in person.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. One day I will get to the brick house. One day.
One day. That'll be an auspicious day.
This is the closest yet.
This is the closest I have been.
You're getting closer all the time. That's it for this edition of Tech News Today. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv. And you can give us a call. Our phone number is 260-TNT-SHOW. Leave us a voicemail. Will Harris joins us. We're staying international with a Brit on the show tomorrow. We'll see you then.